Good afternoon and welcome to another exciting edition of the Refined Football Podcast Show. My name is OFORDILE David, and of course, I'm not alone in the studio. On my left hand side is my co-host, Prince Mbappe of Lagos. Prince, you are welcome. And today in our midst we have a very, very important guest, a sports journalist with over 10 years of experience in the game, person of Mr. OLUMIDE Alex. Sir, you're welcome.
Hey, good afternoon. Good to be on the show. Good to be here.
Thank you very much, sir. So, sir, we have this very important question to ask. Something that has been eating up the football system in Nigeria. Of course, around the world, we know football is a very lucrative sport. A lot of countries are already tapping into it, amassing talent. Now, I have one question to ask. What is the role of the government in terms of developing football? And has the government really been very active in terms of playing their role?
Okay, so talking about the government's role in football development in Nigeria is a case study. Number one thing, governments they have a role to fund, which of course funding has been a major challenge. Look at Nigeria football or sports ecosystem. You see, most of them are being funded by the federal government. So in a situation whereby those funds fail to come in as a blend, it's a big problem. Then two, you look at grassroots development. It starts from the cradle. No doubt about the fact that in Nigeria we're blessed with loads of talents. We have abundant talent out there. But in the process of discovering and nurturing these talents, after discovering them, in the process of nurturing them, you need to fund them, you need to support them, you need to motivate them. Like they say generally, motivating factor, welfare comes in first. So in a situation whereby welfare fails, then to motivate becomes a problem. And in the process too, another role the government has to play in the process of developing our sports is formulate very good policies that would build or enlarge whatever we do. For instance, looking at age grade competitions now, from under 17 to under 20 to under 23, and of course to national team. The football system, they have a role to set up good policies that will help them, especially developmentally. Look at under 17 naturally. The whole essence of funding, the whole essence of starting under 17, it's just to develop talents, nurture them to under 20 level, to under 23, which is succession plan. But if you look at it from way back in the day, from say 1987, from the golden era of the Oladimiji Lawal and Co. From under 17 to under 20, how many of those numbers made it to the under 20 level? That's a succession plan. From under 20 to under 23, how many of them made it out to the national team? Well, if we have good succession plan, then we can look at the bulk of this particular school. We'll definitely move on to the next.
You raised a very important point. Talked about succession, moving from 17 down to 20, down to the national team level. And that is one thing that has really eaten deep into our system. And if you watch these days, our national team has not really been performing. That's a very good point. And now down to the NPFL. Let's bring it down to the NPFL because majority of the clubs in the NPFL are run by the state government. What is it that we can do to bring about private investment? Because if you look deeply, these clubs that are run by the government, it is one thing to make the funds available. It's another thing to have the right people in the right offices to put these funds to good use and promote the league. The league has been up and down for years. Up and down for years. Is it that the government not really playing their role, or is it just act of nonchalant act, or how are we going to look? We don't know exactly because we've been clamoring for these changes.
Yeah.
And there's something I noticed. The major reason for this state government funding this club is another way of securing votes for the next election. Let's just be honest.
Politically.
Yes, it's a political motivation, but political something. You're politicking with our football, which is killing the sport. And of course, FIFA standard and CAF standard, politics is not allowed in football. Government definitely has a role. What is their major role?
So basically, talking the Nigeria Premier Football League, it's actually sad, but still in this very position at this current age and time. Under normal circumstances, by every standard, we should have grown much beyond this. Or you look at the fact that our football, the way we run professional football in Nigeria, naturally is not the way it's supposed to run based on FIFA standard.
Yes.
Funding has always been a problem. State governments, like you said, most of these clubs are being funded and run by state governments, which of course that still takes me back to funding. At the moment now, we have about 20 MPFL clubs now, about 19 of them or 18
18 of them are owned
state
by the
governments,
government.
just
Except
Remo
Remo
Stars.
Stars and Ikorodu City.
Now we look at the fact that okay, we've got Remo Stars who are doing so well at the moment,
So,
simply because of one thing, because they have all the necessary facilities. They have the backup support. When I mean support, finance, very, very important. But look at the remaining 18 club sites. A few of them are doing well at the moment because they are well funded. A very good example, you look at Rivers United. They pay so well, one of the highest paid
the highest
club
paid
sites
in
here. Outside of Rivers United, you look at maybe Aqua United, you look at Enyimba. These are teams that are doing well. Aqua United at the moment are struggling. 3 seasons ago or 4 seasons ago, Aqua United won the league. Look at the crop of players that were in the squad there. These guys, the Indifreke Fiong of this world, the Ubon Friday,
on Friday.
Informudo. These are guys that, if you look at the rate 1 to 10, about 3 or 4 of them are among the highest paid then. So outside of funding, then we look at the way they set up the MPFL. Is it economically viable to attract sponsors? The answer is no. One, we look at the fact that on match days, you see crowd violence, you see a lot.
No.
Match day 10, we know what happened. Enugu Rangers, center in Kano too, something happens too. These ugly incidents will not attract any sponsors to come partner with the Nigerian Premier Football. I remember 2 seasons ago, on the eve to the day the league would start, that was when we got a betting company to sponsor the league. As I speak at the moment now, there's no sponsor for MPFL 2023-2024 season. So these are problems actually. So until we put the right peg in the right hole, we wouldn't get it right, and it's a big problem.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Princeway, Mbappe of Lagos, of course, our guest has spoken and he raised a lot of valid points. I don't know if you have any questions you want to ask me.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Um, you talked about process on the under 17 down to the 20. Take you back to the golden age. I could remember vividly well that we had something we call youth fund.
Yeah.
And the group of players we had then in the age grade national team, a lot of them came from youth fund. But looking at it these days, no longer hear of the youth fund. So do you think that youth fund should be, as in, maybe we should go back to programs like that will call the youth fund, that will get students from secondary schools coming from all over the state to participate, and from there we select them down to the national team? Or the present day system right now that we're having a lot of academies around, and if you look at it, the academy owners, they push their players and they go to the academies to get players for the national team. So which of these do you think will further help the national team? Talking about the process from under 17 down to the under 20, with the governmental role.
Yeah, fantastic point you just raised. Good question. We do not necessarily go back to the days of youth fund. For instance, this question is not just limited to football, across other sports too. But look at the National Sports Festival. It's an annual thing. It happens every year. The whole idea is to develop talents, nurture them, and glue them. It will be almost ones of this world, the Funke Oshinaike, a whole lot of them, even wrestling that is doing so well at the moment. Most of them, they discovered these guys from the cradle, from the National Youth Sports. So after the National Youth Sports, what did we get in return? They found their way around and just went into greener pastures. Fantastic one. Or if we limit it to football now, like you said, it is not just about youth sport. For instance, there's this interstate football competition that, among secondary schools. I remember Lagos State does that, Imo State does that, a couple of other states does that. So if this thing can cut across, it can spread across all the 36 states, including the FCT, a lot of guys will be discovered from these young academies, because secondary school players, you discover them from secondary school, from this academy. From academy too, they register them with the Nigerian Football Federation, and in the process, you get to develop a lot. But government needs to support these guys. One, facilities. Do we have enough facilities across all the
That's one
states?
major problem I think we are
That's a
facing.
big problem. Infrastructural challenge. It's
Maintaining
there.
these facilities and
Maintenance. Another way
maintenance.
and
Our
go.
maintenance culture is poor.
Yeah. Then another thing, if we say we appropriate funds across all the states, are we so sure those funds will be judiciously used, channel them to the right sources? That's another big problem. I really don't want us to dwell on that. That leads us to corruption, not just in the football sector, across sports sector. So basically, if we put the right setup in place, apart from releasing funds, then we need to put proper structure to monitor this. That's okay, these resources have been channeled into the right setup. And from there, we can start looking at it from on the 17. We can as well graduate and become professionals.
Okay, quick one. Just another question. We've seen the impact of privatization of clubs in the local league. You talk about the Remo staff,
A perfect example.
perfect example, owned by Play,
Shoname.
Shoname. And we also understand that owns almost 80% of shares of this club.
See
See
differences.
difference of
Difference.
Portugal, yeah.
And so, looking at that, what do you think should be done, or should there be opportunities for private investors to, still come and own clubs or take over clubs to further help the league, since we've seen the impact
Yeah.
of privatization in the league?
There should be, or one major challenge we're having is, are we treating sports as business?
Business.
Sports is real business. You invest in something. Okay, for instance, you look at this football, this soccer on this table. You invest, say, X amount of naira. At the end of the accounting period or football season, you go back to the drawing board and say, okay, this is my investment. Have I made my investment, and what has been my profit margin?
Amounts put in.
So, for instance, you look at
Profit.
Remo Stars, we're all giving accolades to the owner of Remo Stars at the moment now. But look at it, if it cuts across the last 5 years. Has it made a lot of money on what is invested? Have you been to the Ikene Township Stadium to see the facilities? The facility he has in place. He's invested a whole lot.
And right now, MPFA clubs are using these facilities for
Do you understand?
training or
Okay, not just Remo Stars. A couple of other private investors tried investing in football at the point. Then work. Look at Ifeanyi Ubah, for example. Van Dresa is not doing fantastically well at the moment. But ask me why. Because they invested a lot, and what has been the profit margin. So basically, most of these are clubs, even forget about the private owned clubs, state government owned clubs too. Are we making profit out of it? Let's compare it to that of the advanced nations in the world. The EPL, the La Liga, the Bundesliga, and the whole lot. These clubs are being funded and run by strict business entity. For instance, Arsenal declared a profit margin of well over 250% increase last month.
yeah,
Profit margin. So it is not just about saying we signed players, we did this, we did. It is not just about what you do on the field of play. Outside of the field of play, look at
Business
gate takings, you look at image rights, you look at broadcast rights. A whole lot is involved. Okay, for instance, Ikorodu City is currently playing trade in the Nigeria Premier Football. They have a couple of sponsors. BetKing is one of them, and Indomie. Yeah, fantastic. How many football clubs in Nigeria has 3 to 5 sponsors to come partner with them? So apart from the subvention you get from the state government at the end of the month, how do they survive? Can they survive on their own? The answer is a big no. That's why you see most of these club sites, you see their players carry placards. At some point, we've been owed 5 months, 6 months. It is quite embarrassing. So if you as a business owner, you look at investing in the Nigerian Premier Football League, and you see this ecosystem is not friendly, your investment, are you sure of getting returns on your investment? You probably say the answer is no. So until we have a system that allows the football system to grow,
level playing field.
thank you so much. That's the right. I was actually looking for the right one. A level playing ground for
Encourage
both private
private
and public investors. So
Well,
by the time you're sure that I'm investing X number of amounts in dollars in naira, are you sure at the end of the season you get double? That's when you invest your figure. But if you're not sure of getting returns, you wouldn't want to run your business at a loss. So it's a big problem.
There's a point you raised, and that brought me back to my time when I traveled to Congo. Talked about a level playing ground where I will encourage private investors At the same time, allow for private investors to exist with clubs that are run by by the state. Now, when I traveled down to Congo, I was actually on my way to US Panda. I, I met a football agent that was able to lecture me on how the league is over there and the reason players are coming in from different parts of Africa to come to Congo. He said every week, if the federal government makes it mandatory that each club gets $25,000. $25,000 covers their transportation because they travel by air, they don't travel by road. This is one thing that's killing our league. Only $25,000 it covers their transportation by air, eating allowance, and mad bonuses. Why the clubs takes care of salary. But every week the federal government makes funds available to take care of clubs' financial dealings for that week in terms of bonuses, allowances, and otherwise. Now, this is where the government comes. This is a role the government is playing in Congo.
Funding.
Back to Nigeria, the role of the government in terms of football development. We don't really know their role. What they do is every now and then innovate stadium. They leave it like that. The next government comes in, they innovate the same stadium, leave it like that. What do you call total innovation?
Okay.
Sorry for. So recently, Canopilas said they renovated their stadium. Fantastic. But after the season ends and they make it to the continental level, they want to play continental football, you find out that CAF will come and will not approve the stadium. Now, what is the role of the government in Nigeria? We don't know what they are doing. Football, like we said in the beginning, is a lucrative industry. A lot of money is in this industry. Now, you raised the point, you said, in this part of the world, we don't take it as a business. This is what is killing us. We don't take it as a business. It is more of political game. Take over, I do you well when it's almost time for the election, you vote in and I'll do the same thing. Now, this is killing football in this country. That is the reason you see every now and then ballers are always running away. Our highest goal scorer for the last 6 seasons.
Yeah.
Not spend 2 years.
They would always move. Yes.
Indeed, the season ends running away.
Yeah, the truth of the matter is, we look at all these names. Most of them are breadwinners in their families. Apart from the fact that, okay, you take football or whatever as a profession, at the end of the day, you have a lot of mouths to feed out there. So you look at the fact that, okay, you're doing well on the field of play. After the season, you got a lot of accolades, got a series of awards, and the process offers will come. For instance, they have a peg, the MPFL, say from 200K to X amount. 200K should be the minimum. But in the process, having that 200K, most of these clubs still fail to meet up with this figure. In the process, most of these clubs still owe them backlogs. So, for instance, someone that is earning, say, 500K per month, at the end of the season, you got an offer converted to Naira is well over 5 million Naira. You will definitely move. I remember I had the conversation, with someone before we started this show. Like you said, a lot of players in the last 6 seasons, look at the likes of Chijuke, Akuneto, Bauma, a whole form at a point.
Form was our highest
A
goal
whole
scorer
lot.
at the point.
They would always move. But my challenge is they really do not care about the standard of where they're going anymore.
We're going for the money.
Which shouldn't be, and it's part of the problem.
Recently,
So maybe after, okay.
Sorry for cutting you short. Recently, in the last 2-3 years, players from the MPF have been running to one particular country.
Yeah.
Tanzania.
Then the Republic is also in the mix.
Recently, I think I can't remember Dio Joe,
Yeah.
Remo star.
Yeah.
I saw the news when the season ended where he didn't renew his contract with Remo.
Yeah.
It's in our league.
It's a
It's in
problem.
our league.
So now, are we funding them well? The answer is no.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
apart
but-
from what the government does, the private set up too. In the process of coming, I remember saying this earlier on. I'll just use that to round up the segment. So you want to set up a football team, for instance, the Remo Stars. Remo Stars at the moment they pay handsomely well. They reward their players well. This is a club that is attracting a lot of sponsors too. They've competed on the continent a couple of times now. 2 seasons ago they competed. Last season they competed. That is visibility for you. In the process to get to see their players on the continent. So when players feature outside of the shores of Nigeria on the continent like that, it improves the market value. And of course gives the league a better visibility. I remember I had a conversation to coming into the studio. South African League is rated as one of the best now because of what? Apart from the fact that they are better funded, the visibility is there. Super Sports a fantastic media partner. They cover them. When was the last time we had a major brand like that over the MPFL? I remember last season, MPFL board signed a contract with Star Times worth a billion naira. 3 weeks ago, no, worth a billion naira across 5 years. Per season, 200 million naira per season. About 3-4 weeks ago, Star Times came out and said this contract, we're putting this contract on hold. Cancelled at the moment, they're still negotiating. So, which means for match day 10, 11, and 12, no coverage. You know what that means to the MPFL as a board? I said, for instance, we say we don't have a league for this particular MPFL, no coverage. Now imagine if you've invested a whole lot of money, thinking, okay, start time subscribers, they would get to see what's happening, my market will be seeing out there. But for 3 match days now, my investment is nothing to write home about. I would definitely cancel my contract. It's a big problem.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time on the show. I'm sure we will look to invite more people. That is good. Because this is a very, very ambiguous topic. Very, very huge topic. Something that we should begin to speak from now to the next 4 hours. We're going to raise a lot of points. A lot of points. Now, let's just yes. So this is where we join the parties on today's edition of the Refined Football Podcast Show. Please do ensure to follow us on our social media pages as they pop up on your screen, on our Instagram page, on TikTok, on Facebook. And please do ensure to click on our subscribe button on our YouTube page and hit the notification button screen. Until we meet again, bye for now.